So imagine this. You've got $100 sitting in your account, and instead of spending it on takeout or a new gadget, you decide to try flipping it into 10,000 using crypto. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly the challenge I set for myself, and today I'm going to walk you through how I approached it, the exact strategy I used, the wins, the losses, and the lessons I learned along the way. By the end of this video, you'll see that turning a small amount into something much bigger is possible, but only if you're willing to play smart, manage risk, and stay disciplined. Let's dive in. When I started this flip, the first thing I had to accept was that $100 is not a lot of money in the world of crypto. That means you can't just park it in Bitcoin and hope it magically grows into 10 grand. At least, not unless you're planning to wait decades. With a small stack, the name of the game is leverage, not the dangerous exchange kind where you risk liquidation in seconds, but the kind of leverage that comes from spotting opportunities early, moving quickly, and compounding small wins. My very first step was picking the right platform. I needed somewhere with low fees, access to a variety of coins, and a solid reputation. High fees can eat up your profits faster than you think, especially when you're flipping small amounts, so I looked for exchanges that kept those costs minimal. Once I had the right setup, the next step was building a mindset. Treat that $100 as risk capital. In other words, money I could afford to lose. That freed me from emotional decision-making. Because here's the truth. When you're emotionally attached to every dollar you sell too early, you panic when the market dips and you miss opportunities. So I told myself, this 100 is already gone, now let's see what I can make it do. The strategy itself had three main pillars: identifying microcaps with strong potential, riding momentum plays, and locking in profits consistently. Let me explain. Microcaps are small market cap projects, usually under the radar, that can explode when they get traction. But they're risky. 90% of them are garbage, but if you research well, find solid teams, real use cases, and communities that are building momentum, you can multiply your investment fast. I wasn't just throwing darts at a board. I was digging into Twitter trends, Discord groups, GitHub activity, and even watching wallet movements from known smart money. Momentum plays, on the other hand, were about timing. If a coin started trending on social media or suddenly picked up trading volume, I'd look for an entry before it really pumped. Think of it like surfing. You've got to catch the wave just as it starts to build. But here's the key. I never went all in. Even with only $100, I divided it into smaller plays, maybe $20 or $30 at a time. That way, one bad trade wouldn't wipe me out. And the last pillar was locked in profits. Too many people ride a pump-up, watch their money double or triple, and then refuse to sell because they think it'll go even higher. And you know what usually happens? The chart crashes and they're left holding the bag. I made a rule for myself. Whenever I doubled my money, I pulled out at least half. That way, I was always protecting gains and giving the rest room to run. Let me give you a real example. Early in this challenge, I spotted a low-cap project that was building hype around a decentralized AI tool. It was buzzing in a few niche communities, but hadn't really hit mainstream attention yet. I jumped in with about $30, and within a week that bag was worth over $100. Instead of getting greedy, I pulled out my initial 30 plus another 20 in profit, leaving 50 to ride. The project ended up climbing even higher, but I was already secure, and that 50 eventually grew into 200. That's how I compounded small wins into bigger ones. Now, not every trade was a success. I definitely had coins that tanked. There were times I bought into hype too late, and within hours the value dropped by half. The difference is I didn't chase losses. I treated it like a numbers game. If I had 5 plays and 3 were winners, those profits covered the losers and still pushed me forward. Another key part of my strategy was rotating profits into more stable assets as I grew. For example, once I turned that 100 into around 1,000, I started putting a portion into Ethereum and Bitcoin. Why? Because those coins are more stable long-term. You can't rely on microcaps forever. The volatility will eventually wipe you out. So I used them as stepping stones. Flip microcaps for growth, rotate gains into larger caps for security, then repeat. This approach gave me both explosive upside and a safety net as my portfolio grew. And let's not forget about patience. There were times I just sat on my hands for days, waiting for the right setup. A lot of beginners blow up their accounts because they feel like they always have to be trading. But sometimes the smartest move is no move at all, especially in a choppy market. Over the course of a few months, I went from that original 100 to over 10,000. Not in one giant jackpot, but through a series of small flips, smart rotations, and disciplined risk management. And here's the most important part. I treated it like a marathon, not a sprint. Yes, I wanted fast growth, but I didn't want to gamble. Every decision was calculated. And along the way, I learned that the real secret isn't some magic coin pick or hidden indicator. It's consistency, discipline, and not letting emotions run the show. So if you're thinking about trying a flip strategy like this, remember a few things. First, only use money you're willing to lose because nothing in crypto is guaranteed. Second, focus on research and timing instead of chasing random pumps. Third, lock in profits. Don't fall into the trap of holding forever. And finally, have a bigger plan for your gains, whether it's rotating into safer assets, cashing out into stablecoins, or reinvesting into long-term projects. That's how you turn small wins into life-changing amounts over time. And that's how I flipped $100 into 10,000. If you find value in this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more strategies, and drop a comment below if you've ever tried a similar challenge or if you're thinking of starting one yourself. I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.